Although Nahum's prophecy was written in a primary sense to foretell the imminent demise of the wicked city of Nineveh, it spills over to the last days. He's also talking about the Antichrist.
Yahweh has given a command concerning you. Your name shall be perpetuated no longer. Out of the house of your gods I will cut off the carved image and the molded image. I will dig your grave, for vile. Behold, on the mountains the feet of him who brings good tidings, who proclaims peace. Nahum 1:14 and 15.
What mountains? Who proclaims peace? Knowingly or not, the prophet is referring to the Messiah, Yahshua, the one who, as we saw above, makes wars cease to the end of the earth. When his feet touch the Mount of Olives, the Antichrist and his whole phony scam are as good as dead. And Israel? Will they ever feel safe again? Yes, Yahweh assures them.
There shall no longer be a pricky briar or a painful thorn for the house of Israel from among all who are around them, who despise them. For they shall know that I am the Lord, Yahweh. Thus says the Lord Yahweh, when I have gathered the house of Israel from the peoples among whom they are scattered, and am hallowed in them in the sight of the Gentiles, then they will dwell in their own land which I gave to my servant Jacob, and they will dwell safely there, build houses, and plant vineyards. Yes, they will dwell securely, when I execute judgments on all those around them who despise them. Then they shall know that I am Yahweh their God. Ezekiel 28:24-26.
Nahum wasn't quite done.
O Judah, keep your appointed feasts, perform your vows, for the wicked one shall no more pass through you. He is utterly cut off. Nahum 1:15.
Yahweh is not about to take them back to the purely metaphorical, original covenant Mosaic Torah economy, you understand, not when the Messiah is present among them. As Jeremiah described it, God's covenant, renewed and restored, would now be inscribed on their hearts. But because the whole law was fulfilled in the life of Yahshua, the 7 annual appointed feasts of Yahweh will be just as relevant and meaningful after his final coming as they were the day they were instituted, now in a memorial rather than a prophetic role. Yahweh wants Israel to continue to celebrate them, sacrifices and all, after he returns. We'll discuss them at length in a future chapter. At first glance, these ritual sacrifices might seem nothing more like the tender and touching provision of a warm and familiar, even if previously misunderstood, security blanket, a comforting gesture toward a beloved child who's just awakened from a terrible nightmare. Indeed, God is going to let Israel hang on to her blankie for another 1,000 years. But they're much more than that. The feasts of Yahweh rehearse the heart of God's plan for the redemption of all mankind. They were designed to go on as long as Israel walked the earth, and they'll be especially meaningful now that they're finally understood, and now that the wicked one is no longer around to trouble them. However, I am getting just slightly ahead of my story. Leave it to John to succinctly wrap up the Battle of Armageddon. He's so succinct, in fact, it almost seems a touch anticlimactic. The battle is apparently over before it begins. Nobody even gets a shot off.
Then the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet who worked signs in his presence, by which he deceived those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. These two were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone.
No Nuremberg-style trials, no lawyers, no hand-wringing over the morality of the death penalty. These two are so guilty, as a matter of fact, Yahshua, the supreme judge, skips the execution and sends them straight to hell, in deference to King David's prayer.
Let death seize them. Let them go down alive into hell, for wickedness is in their dwellings and among them. Psalm 55:15.
As much as I'd like to go off on a tangent and talk about the lake of fire burning with brimstone, I'll have to defer our exploration of hell and heaven for a later time. Having already invited all his feathered friends to dinner, Yahweh isn't about to send them home hungry. So,
and the rest were killed with a sword which proceeded from the mouth of him who sat on the horse. And all the birds were filled with their flesh. Revelation 19:20 and 21.
Like I said, anticlimactic. No Battle of the Bulge, no Tet Offensive, no war. Just justice, judgment, and instantaneous death. You may be asking yourself, if it's this easy for Yahshua to defeat the forces of evil at the Battle of Armageddon, why doesn't he do it all the time? Why do we have to go through the agony of fighting our enemies, and sometimes our friends, to see justice done and righteousness prevail? At the risk of repeating myself, again, the reason is choice, free will. Every one of us has been given the ability and the responsibility to choose between right and wrong, between good and bad, between loving our Creator, hating Him, and ignoring Him. I know it seldom seems like such a clear-cut decision, but in the final analysis, it's black and white, absolute truth, or something else. There's only one road to God. It's straight and it's narrow, and Christians who've been on it for a while know that it can be littered with potholes. It can usually be avoided, but you have to stay alert and observe Yahweh's posted speed limits. When we describe this road to people not traveling on it, we sometimes frighten or confuse them, for it's easy to lose sight of the destination if you're worried about the journey. Everyone wants to get to God, of course, even if it's a God of their own imagination. But these folks either haven't asked for directions or they've accepted bad advice. They have all mistakenly assumed that the road they're on leads to the same place, or someplace just as good. While the road to God is narrow, it's very, very long, and it has lots of on-ramps right up to the very end. Yahweh designed it that way because He wants everyone to have the opportunity to get on the right road, to get to Him. The road to God is clearly marked, but each driver has to choose to go there, to leave the fast, smooth highway he's on. And that can be hard because we were all born on that highway. We're used to it. Truth is, we like it. Complicating matters is that both roads are toll roads. The difference is that on the world's highway, you pay the toll when you get off, and the cost is kind of steep. Death. God's road is no less expensive. In fact, it's much more so. But the toll must be paid before you get on. The toll on God's road is holiness, righteousness, sinlessness, perfection. However, since nobody's perfect, He provides the required toll to everyone who wants to come to Him, because that's what He wants. And what does perfection cost? The blood of His Messiah, the most precious substance known to man. The price is paid. All we have to do is accept it. And what do good works have to do with it? Nothing at all. You can't pay the toll with good works for the simple reason that good works, as far as God's concerned, don't exist until we accept Yahweh's gift, pass through the turnstile, and begin our travels on His road. Only then do our works count for something. But by that time, our eternal destination is already determined. That's the choice then. Get on the narrow road that leads to God, or stay on the broad highway that leads somewhere else. It's black and white, yes or no. There is no middle ground. The reason, therefore, that Armageddon is such an easy battle for Yahshua to win is that by the time it's fought, the clock has run out. The last on-ramp has been passed. All of the people of earth have made up their minds minds. Yahshua is in no danger of abridging anyone's free will by dealing decisively with his enemies at this point. They came prepared to fight him. They have chosen, and poorly. And the Jews? Yahweh has never given up on this family.
The Redeemer will come to Zion, and to those who turn from transgression in Jacob, says Yahweh. As for me, says Yahweh, this is my covenant with them. My Spirit who is upon you, and my words which I have put in your mouth, shall not depart from your mouth, nor from the mouth of your descendants, nor from the mouth of your descendants' descendants, says Yahweh, from this time and forevermore. Isaiah 59:20 and 21.
For the rebels, this is the end of the world. But for the redeemed in Israel, this is only the end of the beginning.